I discovered the idea and this concept of becoming the CEO of my business. This is not a new idea. It was just a new idea to me, and it was new to chiropractic. I went on a journey and I found some new mentors, some new coaches, and some new people to help guide me. They were outside of our space. And I transformed my life, and I transformed my business, and I became the CEO. I experienced the freedom and the outcome of freedom and joy and peace and restoration in my life and in my family, without sacrificing the integrity of my business and my brand and my message and my product.
Welcome back to ChiroX, where we talk business growth for, well, chiropractors. You just heard Dr. Pete Camiolo, and he knows the drill. You're making bank, but you're also absolutely slammed. You're the top doc, the marketing lead, and the manager, yet you're headed straight for burnout. This is a story that Dr. Pete knows well. He was crushing it in his practice, but he realized that the cost was his family and his health. That forced a major shift in his life and forced him to learn how to become the CEO of his business. On this episode, we get into his ITTV Delegation methodology. That probably sounds confusing, but it's a 4-step framework that he uses to basically get tasks off of his plate. We'll also get into his 3-list exercise that you can literally do tonight to free up time and energy in your business. And we'll also get into building a culture of testimony, which it was actually probably one of my favorite topics on this episode. This is an episode about building your practice to 7 figures without dealing with burnout. Let's get into it. Me and Dr. Pete live on LinkedIn.
Let's go.
Oh man. All right. This is exciting. Are you ready? Are you ready to just jump right into this? I have some questions.
One of our business core values is innovative, and you're innovative right now. So I feel like I'm aligned with my core values. I feel like you're aligned as a thought leader and a pioneer in the marketing space. So I think we're locked in right now, my friend. This is good.
We'll see how this goes for you, me, and everybody involved.
Yeah.
Well, sweet, man. Let's jump into it, because honestly, there's a lot that I wanted to get into. We can honestly skip over a lot of maybe the basic intro stuff and your background, because honestly, I've listened to a lot of your other podcast shows. You have your own podcast show. If anybody wants to find out about you and where you came from and all those fun things, there's tons of information out there. Really, what I want this conversation to be about more than anything is to be as useful and as valuable as possible for chiropractic business owners. Yeah. And specifically chiropractic business owners that really want to scale, because I know this is something that you are definitely an expert on. Like I said, if anybody wants to check out what you've been up to, there is a whole plethora of online information, from the events you're hosting to online videos to courses that you guys teach other chiropractors. And there's no question that people know your name and really what you guys are doing at the Remarkable Practice. So really my first question is that, let's say that a doctor does want to take that leap from going from a practitioner to ultimately becoming really the CEO or the business owner of their practice. I'm curious if you can maybe share a personal story as to where you learned that lesson, whether it was through an aha moment or maybe a painful moment, and then how you were able to make that shift from just being, and I shouldn't say just being a practitioner, but really from being a practitioner to becoming really the owner and the CEO of a business.
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, being a practitioner is a calling. It's a very high calling. It's a privilege and an honor. To be able to lay your hands on someone and to help them to unlock the human potential in someone is a gift. I never want to lose that. If you, as a practitioner, have lost the awe, the wonder, the joy, the passion, the conviction about the day-to-day work of laying your hands on the sick and they shall recover, if you've lost it, check yourself. Because I don't think anybody has any business ascending into a CEO and scaling if you don't have a deep-rooted value for the service, the products and service that we provide. That's my personal conviction. You don't have to agree with me. That's my personal conviction. I love working with CEOs or doctors who are practitioners who want to scale, but they love the work and they're struggling. They're wrestling with that tension of, I'm an owner and I'm serving and I'm adjusting. I don't know how long I can continue to do this. I feel called to scale and get more help, but I don't want to stop adjusting and serving in this capacity. And I tell them, hey, time out. You can have both of those things. That's the beauty. So that's not the only CEOs that I work with, Corey. Some of them are, hey, I've scaled out of the day-to-day practice and I've actually moved fully into a CEO, more of a strategic role inside of my organization. And that's how I serve. And that's right as well. It's got to be, our whole premise here, Corey, is that we don't tell you what success is. we actually help you unearth what the definition of success is for yourself. You can hire a coach who will tell you this is what you have to do. This is what success looks like. But be very careful of that, because you're actually aligning with their definition of success. And oftentimes you're not equally yoked in that. And oftentimes it can actually lead to devastation and destruction of your own family, your own health, your own happiness. And part of my story, just to jump right in real quick, is, you know, I always had coaches. I still have coaches. I encourage every business person to have multiple coaches. In any area of your life you want to grow, hire a coach. Have accountability in that area, because that's going to give you the ability to break through, because everything you want in your life is on the other side of the coin of accountability. And so we've got to become accountable, which means we've got to be humble, teachable, coachable. And that's the type of people that I love to work with. That's the person I'm trying to be myself each and every day. And so I want to serve people that have that same mindset and want to grow. And so for me, I always had coaching, but the coaching that I had received up to a point was just how to push harder, how to grind, how to just work really hard. And for guys like me, that's speaking my love language. You know what I'm talking about? You're speaking into my listening. I'm like, work harder. Yeah, I can push harder. You know, it's like that. Now it's just like, now you're just fanning the flame, the little ego of Pete Camiolo, who just wants to outwork everybody and push harder and just go longer and whatever. And, you know, while that's part of maybe how God made me and my hard wiring is, I have a high capacity. I have a big push. I have a huge tank. But that's not the full story. And there had to be a change. And so for me, unfortunately, it came from, you know, struggles in my marriage and challenges with raising a family. And I was in the thick of that. And I realized I couldn't keep pushing and growing my business the way that I was growing it and pushing it, and not lose my family and not lose my marriage and lose my kids and lose my health and lose that. And I realized, Corey, that there had to be a better way. I just didn't know what it was. It's maybe like a patient who's trying everything for their health and doesn't have, you know, doesn't know what else to do. And then they run into a chiropractor at some, you know, community event around the holidays. And they're like, wait, what? Like could be a root cause for my migraine headaches. I thought I've tried everything for these headaches. I've gotten to all the specialists and all the things. And I'm like, well, maybe there's something deeper going on that nobody has discovered yet. You know, and that's been my experience with chiropractic with people. Well, that was my own experience as a business owner. I realized, man, I can't keep doing it the way that I'm doing it. And so what happened was, I think we were pregnant with our fourth child. My wife, Mary, and I have 5 children. And I want to give my wife a tremendous amount of credit, because she has stood with me over the past 20 years of marriage, which I'm super proud of. It has not been pretty. We are real and raw about our marriage and about our life. It's a struggle. We fight for each other. We are, you know, swimming upstream countercultural in how we raise our kids, from the health perspective, from our faith, and just from life. And with all that being said, being in business, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your life and on your family and your business. And so I decided, Corey, that I was going to support my wife when she was with our 4th pregnancy, because she was really sick, and she would get really sick, and not to go into that whole story, but she needed help. And we didn't have family living nearby. And so it was basically like, that's me. And so I stepped in and I stepped away from my practice. I entrusted it to my amazing team and a couple of my associate doctors that I had at the time. But the practice definitely took a big dip. And when I say big, it dropped probably 20%. And that 20 to 25% dip over the course of about 4 to 6 months was really painful for my ego and my pride, because I thought, you know, if I was there, this wouldn't have happened. And, you know, what's wrong with these people, and blah, 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 right? You know the song, the internal song. And so I had to come to a place of decision. And I was in this valley of decision. And I came to a place where I had to decide, was I going to go back in and pick things up and do things the way that I've always done it? Or was this my opportunity to do something different? And I'm grateful, because I chose to not go back and just pick it up and do things the way it was done before. And I went on a journey right there in 2015 on discovery. And I discovered the idea and this concept of becoming the CEO of my business. This is not a new idea. It was just a new idea to me, and it was new to chiropractic. And I went on a journey and I found some new mentors, some new coaches, and some new people to help guide me. They were outside of our space. And I transformed my life and I transformed my business and I became the CEO. And I experienced the freedom and the outcome of freedom and joy and peace and restoration in my life and in my family without sacrificing the integrity of my business and my brand and my message and my product. And I realized that this was a really good thing and other people needed this, especially very high performing, achieving, driven business leaders and entrepreneurs like me. And I realized that they needed help with this because I polled all my buddies and I sent them messages that, hey, are you guys struggling with some of these things? And it was like, yeah. So I went on a journey and started a coaching business in 2016 with a dear friend of mine. And we started in 2016 bringing this message into the marketplace. And long story short, now what you were in 2025, a decade later from my epiphany, my aha moment, my painful kind of year of walking that out. And there was some stuff leading up to that even, it was just the straw that broke the back, right? It was one of those moments with this fourth pregnancy. So I realized I couldn't keep doing it the way that I was doing it. And from that birth, this amazing revelation that I now get to share with chiropractors around the world.
Well, I think I know I can definitely relate to that aspect of being a high achiever and always wanting to do more. Like I'm just reflecting on this past weekend. I planned on going on a 10-mile run and ended up going on a 13-mile run. And, I get into a 190-degree sauna, but it's got to be at least 200. Otherwise I'm not progressing and I'm not making more. Right. I think there's definitely this hedonic treadmill of always wanting to, what's the next thing and what's the next goal and what's the next thing to accomplish. I'm curious then though, is like, okay, so you had this aha moment where you felt like you were having to sacrifice whether family or work. And I think that's probably where a lot of people end up. I've actually heard studies that one of the biggest things that like actually get somebody to start a business is actually having a child, because they realize that they want to spend more time with their children and their family. And so as somebody that's maybe working in a full-time practice or clinician and you have all these people that you have to take care of both in the clinic and at home, I'm curious as to like, what were like the actual literal steps you took to start to transform away from actually being in the practice so much? And I'm also curious as well as like, what did that feel like? Because I know that when I delegate and I create systems and I do these things to like get myself out of the business, I'll be honest, I feel lazy. I feel like I should just be refilling that time with other things that are still driving towards the business, right? Like there's always a sense of feeling of never doing enough. And so I'm curious how you figured that out.
Well, I have so many thoughts on this, but to answer your question specifically, I would say I stumbled into it. I wish I could tell you I was smarter and I had a big strategic plan and that's how I got there. No, man, it was like I was getting texted and called and it was like, I need you. And then I had to look at my team and say, you guys got this, I'm leaving. And it literally just started with me not showing up, which was so hard for me because I'm a guy that shows up. I pride myself on that. I pride myself on being a person of integrity. I never missed a day of work, never for being sick. Like I would literally show up sick as a dog, sick in air quotes as a chiropractor, expressing health, right? But I would show up and I would still serve. I'd still deliver adjustments. I'd still deliver talks. I'd go out and do dinner talks, even though I was feeling terrible, And the reality was like, that was really hard for me because I wasn't feeling bad when I stopped. It was my wife. And I realized that enabling her to be pregnant and to have the help and the support from me to take care of the other children, because they all had a lot of demands with 3 young kids, right? So we would have had at that point 3 kids under the age of 7. So probably like a 7, a 4, and like a 2 or something like that. And it was like those people needed help as well as my wife. And so for me, immediately the whole void of what am I going to do now? I feel lazy. I didn't feel lazy because I was pressed, man. I had a full plate at home and at the office kind of thing. So trust me, when I was home, I wasn't sitting around, watching shows. I was literally just trying to keep kids alive, feeding them, getting them to places and, being a good husband and stuff like that. So I was full on. And then I would go to work and then that was full on. So I was still full on. So I traded full-time for full-time. It was just, it happened over time. So number one is the strategy was, and Dr. France and I, we always talk about this, like, you either are going to choose, to take a vacation, or you'll be forced to take one, and this was one of those ones that was forced on me. Like, I didn't choose this, I was forced on me. But I responded to it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, looking back, one of the things that we did a great job of was we really did a good job of building a team and training a team. So I had trained a really great team. I had a great team. I had a solid team. I can say that to your face. I could say that to them, because a lot of them I still know and work with in some capacity or another. And so the reality was, I had assembled an amazing team of leaders around me who I trusted, who I poured a ton into. And I never stopped pouring into them, by the way. I just had to stop serving patients quite as much, but I could still serve my team. And so that was a big piece to this, was that I prioritized my team and serving them and equipping them and developing them and trusting them, which is actually something that they needed. It's like somebody who can carry, heavier weight, and they are carrying light. And you're like, I'm not really feeling it right now. I need to throw a little bit more weight on me. And I needed to trust my team with more. And that enabled me to do that, and then see that they could do it. So one of the subluxations many of us achievers have, when I say achiever, I'm saying it in air quotes, mainly because there can be a lot of dysfunction in that word. There can be a lot of dysfunction when you want to justify your label that you put on yourself, or that some test you took put on you. And you're like, wait a second, time out. Like, the fully healthy person isn't attached to one or another label, right? So while I like to achieve, I might just be filling some void in my own heart and soul that is unhealthy, and I'm filling it up, but like deep down, like, you're still broken and dysfunctional. So I think I had to grapple with some reality of what was going on in my own heart and soul. And that was revealed to me in this season. And I had to do some inner work, some deep excavation, and go deeper into my heart and soul and find out, why was I feeling so driven, and why did I feel like I had to achieve? What was rooted in there? A lot of fear, a lot of trying to control everything. So there was a lot of pride in there. And I'm not saying the good pride, like I'm proud of the work that I do. I'm saying pride, like it has to be me. I want to get the credit for it, or, and so because I needed to achieve, and I needed the accolades, I needed the attention, I needed the love, there was a love tank emptiness that I had. And I realized that. And so many of us that are driven to achieve are also living from a place of lack. And I was in that place. And so I wouldn't have been able to have that moment and those moments of revelation had I not went through the desert season of feeling lazy, or like I'm not really being fully utilized right now. And it's like, wow, that's a really hard place to be. But I would have never birthed some of the businesses that I birthed and some of the ideas that I birthed, nor would I have been able to be the person I needed to be for my husband, or as a husband and a father, and had I not done that. So, I can look back now, hindsight's 2020, and say, well, I could tell you a lot of the things. Number one is it was not something I chose. It happened for me, but I did respond to it. I didn't resist it. I did say yes. Number two, I built a strong team and had a really strong and powerful team, and we had great systems in place. That was the second. Number third is I kept pouring into my people. I kept valuing them and appreciating them and supporting them, and they kept doing great work. And that enabled me then to not have to go back in and just put the thing back on my back and say, all right, climb with me. And I could say, hey, I trust you guys and you got this, and supporting them. So those are some of the keys for me. And then the fourth was I did the deep work internally. While I was wrestling through my own insecurities, I actually went deeper and found out what the heck was really going on inside of me. And I realized that I had to get some of those things corrected. And I knew that, God wasn't going to open any new doors for me until I got that good work done. And I was able to do it. And I still do that deep work to this day. It's still part of my morning rhythms, and it's part of my, annual practices and quarterly practices, is just to say, hey, you've got to look inside. You got to get your insides right, because it's easy to get dysfunctional and subluxated in our hearts, minds, and our soul. And I needed to make sure I was keeping that, staying healthy.
One of the things that Will Smith gets asked a lot is like, how do you do so much? How do you accomplish so much, right? He's done a lot of things, from, rapping and acting and writing and raising a family and a lot of things. And I've always appreciated his response to it. And he says that you bite off more than you can chew, and then you figure out how to chew it. And I've always found a lot of truth in that for people like that maybe self-describe as a high achiever, or somebody that wants to accomplish a lot of things, is like, yeah, you say yes to too many things probably. And then as through the pain that you obviously experienced, and I think a lot of other people in that situation experience, is like through the pain, you figure out that isn't sustainable and you have to figure out other ways to chew it, whether that is hiring, training a team, having systems, things of that nature, which kind of leads me to my next question in regards to like your delegation methodology. Cause like, I know that specifically for people that are like have control issues, self-identified in that one. How do you let go of some of these things? And then also like, how do you ensure that those things are at quality? I have my own thoughts on that, but I'll let you kind of run with that one.
So we have a delegation methodology. I originally heard this from Dr. Stephen, who originally heard this probably from, I think, Dr. John DeMartini. And I've taken it and then I've really unpacked it for my own self. And then in my teaching and coaching, as I, serve a lot of chiropractors and help them with their business, is the acronym is ITTV. So ITTV, I stands for identify. It also stands for identity. So let me explain. So the first thing you have to do when you delegate is you have to know your identity. You have to know that your worth and your value doesn't come from doing more or doing everything or getting the credit. Because if you depend on the credit or you depend on doing it all or doing more, you're already going to be blind to the identify piece, which is the who can help you. You won't even see them, even though they're standing right there. You're like, they're right there. That person, yeah, they can help you. This person right here. You're like, I don't even see them because you're so blinded by yourself. So the first is identity and identify. Identity so that you can identify. Knowing yourself, not necessarily having to do more or do it all or get all the credit, and being able to share that with somebody. And then the identify is identifying who is the right person to help you with that. It could be a task, right? It could be a project. It could be some specific goal or outcome that, your business is trying to accomplish. This could be at home or at the office, right? In our work, but let's just keep to the business side. So identifying who is the person that can do this. And so here's how we identify. We have to get 4 things right. We've got to get the right person. So the right person would be someone who understands what the vision of that thing you're delegating to them. Could be a small task like, hey, I need you to help me with editing content that we're going to post on social media. Right now, I've been finding myself up into the late hours of the night and early morning editing things. You're like, and you're the CEO of this business and you're a doctor? Why the heck are you doing that, man? It's like, you're right. I don't know why. You're like, don't you have a team? Like, yeah. Do you have anybody that could do it? Like, I don't know. And like, why don't you know? It's like, I haven't asked. I haven't thought about it. It's like, well, maybe you should start doing that. Right. So like, what are things in your life? And I could go through how I build the list of things that you need to delegate. That's a different topic. But the first step is identify the who. Who's the person that they see it, they understand the vision of what you're saying, and they have the skills to be able to help with that. So they get it, they understand it, they see what you're trying to accomplish. They want to help you. Like they actually genuinely are like, give it to me. I can do that. I want to do it. Don't give people things to do that they don't really want to do. I'm not talking about your kids at the house. Those are called chores, and yeah, they need to do them. I'm talking about people at work that you invested your money to buy their time, energy, and focus. So their time, energy, and focus would be best utilized with this. Who's the best person for it? Somebody who gets it and they actually have a desire, like they want to do that work. They want to work on that project or do that task. They want that. And they have the capacity to do it, meaning they have the bandwidth, they have the time, the energy, the ability to focus on it and prioritize it. Okay. So that's the identify piece. You've got to get that right. You've got to get that right person. Number 2 is they have to be in the right position. Okay. So if you're at a position and you're trying to do work that you don't really fit, doesn't fit your position, you either need to move into another position or redefine what that position is, or find a person that's in the right position to do that work. And that's the key here, is because if you get the right person, but they're not in the right position, it's going to be really hard for them to do it. And then the 3rd and 4th pieces are them doing the right work and then doing it the right way. And that's a big part of the delegation methodology. So that's the second letter, which is the T. So the second T is training. Okay. So a big part of being successful in delegating is once you identify who's the right person, and you know your identity is not rooted in you doing it and the accolades and the results that come from it, and you're willing to share all that with somebody else. The second is training. If you don't do the I's, the 2 I's, you're going to drop the ball in the training. You'll give a cursory kind of, here's how you do it, and then you'll throw them out there, and that's called abdication. That's telling somebody, hey, go do it. Good luck, my friend, knowing they're going to fail or knowing they're going to be really unsuccessful. That's just bad leadership. And honestly, a lot of it is rooted in pride. It's actually connected to this idea that you almost not like want them to fail, but you almost want them to so that they come to you and you boost your own so you need my help. Be careful of that, my friends. It's not a good leadership strategy, but training is a great strategy. And we like to say it's the highest and best use of your time is going to be training with your team, right? It's always the best. So training is, there's 2 levels of training. There's onboarding, which is getting somebody up to a level of familiarity and competency. And then there's ongoing training, which is really about proficiency and mastery. And when you're delegating, you want to delegate to somebody who can develop a level of mastery in whatever the thing is that they're doing. And that's an ongoing process. Onboarding is time-bound. Training ongoing is timeless. It's an ongoing process. I want you to show me one person who's successful in the arts or entertainment or sports or business industry who isn't continuing to work on themselves. It doesn't exist. So we got to keep shooting free throws if we're going to be knocking down free throws when it matters in the game. You got to keep practicing. I don't care how successful you've been. And so for us, it's this ongoing commitment to train. That's the second T. The first T. The second T is trust. This is the big one. So there's a big difference between entrusting someone with something and them being entitled to it. And this has to do a bit with the person you're giving the thing to as much as it does to you. So let's talk about entitlement. I know that there's this whole conversation in today's day and age about people being entitled. So the way I look at this is just because you are in the position and you have a title, you wear a hat, you are not necessarily entrusted yet. To be entrusted with something, with an outcome, you need to be trained so that I can trust you. And so training enables you to trust. Training is about equipping. Trusting is about empowering. So to train is to equip. It's to give people tools and resources, which requires your time, your energy, and your focus pouring into somebody. Equipping and trusting has to do with empowerment. When I'm trusted, you're not micromanaging me. You're not looking over my shoulder every 1 minute. You're not checking my work, triple checking my work. No, I trust you. You got this, right? Trusting is about empowerment. That enables me to feel empowered. To be empowered is with power, with authority. I now have authority, or what I would call ownership of the outcome. I'm accountable to that now. You trusted me with that. And that entrusting comes when you do the training right. And you equip and then you empower that person to be able to run with the thing that you're giving them, with them, which is huge. And then the last piece, the ITTV, the V stands for verify. And verify is the accountability piece. This says, hey, I trust you, Corey. You got this. Let's circle back in a week. Let's circle back at the end of the day. Let's circle back at the end of the month. Let's circle back. And hey, here's what I would love to get from you. I need a report on how things went. Hey, if you could provide for me X, Y, Z, ABC, that'd be amazing. And then let's discuss that. So you set a time. You agree to a time. You agree to what it is that we're going to be reporting and reviewing so that when you verify how's it going, you're not just winging it. You're not just guessing. You're not just hoping for the best. You're not just telling stories. It's like, hey, let's gather around the data. Let's gather around the report. Let's gather around the results and see how's it going. And then you don't show up there trying to beat them down. You show up there with an arm thrown around their shoulder and say, how can I help you? How can I serve you? How can I help you become more successful? So Corey, I hope that answers the question, but that's a framework that I like to use and teach, and it's so powerful. Easier said than done, but it is a rich framework, and it works.
Well, I think it's one of the essential skill sets of any practitioner that wants to grow into that position of a CEO. So I think it's important for anybody to really master that framework. I think it's essential. It reminds me of a great meme. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but it's like it's two photos, and on one of the photos, it's this guy saying, "What happens if I train my team and they leave?" And then the photo next to it says, "What happens if I don't train my team and they stay?" And it's like, oh yeah. We should probably be training our team then. That's probably like a pretty important thing to do, because like if you don't train them and they're not skilled and they're not bringing any value and they continue to work there, do you really want them to work there?
Exactly.
That's a huge part of it. But I want to shift. I want to pile on top of that a little bit into this idea of building a culture of testimony. So obviously this all leads to, okay, we're able to create the team and to delegate the tasks to be able to accomplish things. But how do you then create a culture that really create patient advocates, I guess you could say, and really drives consistent growth within the practice?
I personally think, Corey, that this is easy for us as chiropractors. I don't know, what other chiropractors think when they hear me say this, but I mean, we get great results as chiropractors. I don't know about you, but like people come into my office, people have come by my house. I mean, I adjust everywhere that I go. I'm a chiropractor. I literally had a guy come last night and to my house in my garage where I have a table, and like it happens every week. I mean, when you're a chiropractor and the word is out in the street, people are gonna come by. It's how it goes. I adjust my kids on the bleachers at the games that they're competing in. You know what I'm saying? I just want them to perform at their best. So, um, results is really what we're talking about when I talk about a culture of testimony. But what it is ultimately it is setting a expectation that this is who we are and what we expect. This is what we do. We help transform people's lives. We shape their stories, and we do that. And unapologetically, we are going to ask you about what your story was when you came in. We want to know how it's affecting your life. We want to really understand what the goals are that you're trying to accomplish. We really want to know you. We don't want to just know your name. We want to know your story, because we want to shape that story. We want you to have a before and an after story. And by the way, Corey, we can't wait for you to tell your new story, the updated version of that story. Would it be cool if you could be like one of these people on our wall of testimonies and your story can be up there? Corey, I can't wait till we get to have you on our Instagram and you on our Hot Seat TV, when you can get in to be in our email newsletter blast that goes out to all of our patients and previously active and people in our community sharing your story of healing and transformation. I can't wait till that happens. So culture of testimony is, for me, it's actually rooted a lot in my faith, because actually in the Bible, it talks about, in the book of Revelation, it talks about people overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And that's really where this came from for me, was this thing where I knew the power of the spoken word. I knew how important it was for people to speak life. When people come in and they're talking and you're like, you should just close that, stop talking, right? Because everything you're saying is kind of toxic and it's a lot of limiting beliefs, and it's kind of dangerous because you're just saying negative things about yourself and over yourself. And that's going to be a problem. Like I can adjust you and teach you to diet and exercise, but if you keep talking like that about yourself, I'm sorry, but I can't win that war. And I found that with so many patients that are like their inner voice, their thoughts, and that came out through their words. Like it says, out of the mouth, the heart speaks. Man, when that happens, and I've seen this, I've served thousands and thousands of patients over the years, and I can't win that. I realize like I can't win as a chiropractor. I can't win as a doctor if you have so much negative and so much, you're just so attached to your diagnosis and the label that all these people have put on you, and things that your grandmother and your mother and everybody's spoken over you, and you've just own it. And I'm like, if you can't release that, I can give you the best adjustment, the best nutrition plan, the best fitness program, the best supplements. I can give you the best things in the world. And for some reason, you struggle. So I told my patients from the beginning, I said, listen, we ain't going to talk like that anymore. Like I told them, I said, you came into my office like you were walking through the airport with a couple bags. You brought in all your stuff. But I said to them, I walked in that day when I said, ma'am, is it okay if we take all this and put it outside the door? Because what's about to happen in here, we're about to make some changes. And if you're open to that, because I am, that's what we do here, is we help people completely transform their life. We turn your life around. My name of my clinic was Revolution. I was like, we're about to create a revolution in your life. And I said, if you're open to that, you're in the right place. If you just want to keep singing that same old song and be attached to those same diagnoses and be hooked up to those same pills for the rest of your life, we're probably not going to be a great fit for you, because the people that come in our office, man, I'll tell you what, they don't need those drugs no more. And they tend to get rid of some of those diagnoses they've been told they were going to have to live with for the rest of their life, because we get to the root of it. And I'll tell you, when you start and you're unapologetic about who you are and the kind of business you run and the kind of doctor you are and the kind of practice you have, respectfully, obviously you have to meet people where they're at. But, we just weren't okay with that. And so I knew the power of voice. And so the testimonial component to me was an essential ingredient to breakthrough. It's an essential ingredient to outcomes and people having transformation in their life. I'm not talking about genie in the bottle stuff. I'm not talking about wishful thinking. I'm talking about, no, you need to speak life over yourself. You need to declare over yourself what it is that you desire and who it is that you truly are. Because the truth, it supersedes the facts. The facts are, you might have a headache. You might have a family history of X, Y, or Z. That might be a fact, but here's the truth. You're not bound to that for the rest of your life. You've been given the genetic DNA that you've gotten, but I know what supersedes genetics. It's called epigenetics, which is your lifestyle. And you can change the way that your genetics express themselves by how you live your life. So I teach my people this. And I say, listen, I'm not going to agree with your diagnosis. I'm not going to reject it. I'm not going to hook my carabiners onto that wagon. I'm going to ask you to take yours off of that wagon, hook them onto this wagon called healing and transformation. And let's rewrite the story. Let's keep that old story right there. That's your before, but let's hook it to this wagon, because that's going to be your after. And watch what's going to happen in your life when you start following through with our recommendations for care. You start doing the things we're going to encourage you to do. You're going to see your life transform. And to me, that's the culture of testimony. Every single person is invited. Everyone is invited in to share their story now. And that's where it comes from. And I believe, Corey, that over the last 130 years that chiropractic's been a profession, the biggest driver of new people coming into a chiropractic office is other people telling other people, period. I mean, I had multiple radio shows, in my office. I did talks at least once a week, probably more like 4 or 5 times a week. I was speaking. Like, we're out in the community doing screenings. We have a website that was effective at, helping people take the next step, all that. Here's the end of the day. At the end of the day, story. And I believe that 20 years from now, Corey, what is that going to be? 2045? I believe that's one of the best strategies you're ever going to have, marketing strategies, is going to be this. Check it. People telling their story of healing and transformation. I still think it's going to work. I think it's going to work in 2045. I do. Even with AI and all the craziness and all the things on automation, it's still going to work. A real person telling their real story, that works. And that changed my life, because my whole story of why I became a chiropractor was watching my brother's life transform. And I loved telling his story. And I thought, wait a second. Everyone has a story, a before and after, that comes in here, and then giving them an opportunity to share their story. That's the culture that we all need to create.
The limitations that we fight for, we get to keep. It's something I heard a while ago, and I feel like it resonates so nicely with what you're talking about, because that's so many of the people that probably walk into a clinic, right? Is they come in telling you about this badge of honor of all of their illnesses and ailments and challenges and struggles, and they fight to keep them, as if like the stronger I hold on to this, that somehow it gives me a sense of maybe control or meaning or something. And the harder you fight for it, the more you get to keep it, which is, I feel like, a big part of what you're talking about, is like helping people shed that identity, because people do hold on to it as if it's a part of them. I agree. I mean, I agree in the sense that I think storytelling is what humans have been doing for all of human civilization, and it will continue to be something that will always deeply resonate with people, is the ability to share meaningful stories. I'm wondering, from like a tactical standpoint then, of like, is it really as simple as obviously providing an incredible service? That's table stakes. But then also too, is there other things that you package within that, like training within the team or systems or processes or anything you package within that, just to make sure that those stories do get out to people and people do get to hear them? I'm curious.
All of it. Everything you said is yes. So it starts on day one. when we first, even day zero, when we first contact a person, whether they reached out online or they called in or whatever their method of booking in, we want to, as quickly as possible, connect with them and ask them about what it is that's going on. And we start to get an idea of their story. And we start to ask them the things like, well, how's that affecting your life? Now, a lot of doctors will stop at, or doctors' offices might stop at, what's going on? What seems to be the problem, ma'am? What seems to be the problem, sir? And they'll stop at the symptom, the named symptom. Because with the named symptom comes a diagnosis, and the diagnosis with that comes a procedural code, and with that comes being paid and reimbursed, right? So that's all that the medical system needs. They need a symptom, diagnosis, procedural code, payment. But that's not the game. The game actually is a layer, it goes below that. That's just surface level. That's easy. Like anybody can do that. And that's honestly, unfortunately, our medical system. It's why it's broken. And so it's $1 trillion failure. And so we know that if we're going to take this to the next level and restore health, and of course we're making America healthy again, which was a movement for sure championed by chiropractic. We've been singing that song for 130 years. We've been championing RFK for 18 years. And so the reality is that it starts on day zero when patients call in, not just settling out, okay, what seems to be the problem, what's going on. It's asking them, how is that affecting your life? Help me understand why this is important to you. And then we ask them about, hey, who referred you to our office? Did anybody tell you about us? And then we ask them, is this appointment just for you or for your whole family? And these are all little things that you can do on day zero, systematically built in, that's going to completely transform your business. If you just do what I just shared right there, and you do that in 2026, your business is going to grow exponentially. I guarantee it. But I'll go on. Then on day one, as part of the new patient welcome experience and taking them through the office, you're going to show them the stories of people's lives that are being transformed. When you show them the adjusting areas, you say, hey, this is where people's lives are being transformed. Who says that? You could say, those are the adjusting tables. Or you could say, these are our healing rooms, and this is where people's lives are being transformed through the gift of chiropractic care. It's amazing, the stories that are coming out. By the way, let me show you some of those stories. Then you go over to a wall and you show them the stories, condition after condition after condition after condition after condition of people's lives before and after being changed. And they're like, oh my goodness, wow, I never really thought, like blood pressure and infertility and erectile dysfunction and insomnia and, ringing in the ears, and the list goes on of things that are like, I never knew chiropractic care could help with that. And then they're not even there for that. They might be there for sciatica, but then you go to the sciatica testimonials and you say, check out this whole section is all sciatic related, disc related issues. And it's like story after story after story. And you're like, oh my gosh. And what did I just do for that person? I gave them hope. But what did I also do? I gave them I planted a seed of yours is going to change too. And when it does, we're going to go ahead and get that from you because it's too good. It's going to be too good not to tell it. Right. So I don't have to ask for it. I just need to plant the seed. So you just plant seeds along the way. And then on the day one, same thing. You just plant that seed like, hey, what's your before and after? What's your story? And then you tell them, hey, when your life changes and you get better, would you be willing to share your story? And, some people might not be able to answer that in a positive way. They might say, I don't know. We'll see, and that's fine. I like meeting people where they're at, but at least I know where they're at. And I'm like, okay, I can work with that and just make note of it because that down the line, the goal would be eventually that you'll be able to ask them. And then what happens is they start under care. They start getting adjusted. They start getting results from the care that you deliver. And they start telling you about it. And they're like, you're not going to believe it. I slept through the night last night. You're like, whoa, time out. Wait, what? And then you make a big deal out of it. You're like, dude, you haven't slept through the night. How long? Since 2016? Are you kidding me right now? Like, that's amazing. Let me see your sleep score. Whoa, and then you start to say, okay, dude, that's amazing. And you would say that the biggest difference, Corey, that's enabled you to sleep through the night is adding chiropractic adjustments into your lifestyle. It's like 100%. It's like, dude, would you be willing to share your story? Because I'll tell you this right now, just in our region, I know right now there are probably, 20, 30,000 people within a radius of this clinic that struggle right now with sleep. And if we could just share your story and post that and just give that to our community and at least let the people locally here know that, hey, if you struggle with your sleep, it's, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sentence for the rest of your life. There's some help for you. Would you be willing to do that? Like, absolutely. I'll tell the story. Boom. So, you got to be ready to capture the stories in 3 different ways. I say organically, which would be that example that I just gave you. The second one would be a process-driven testimonial capture, which would be at a milestone visit, which would be like a progress exam and progress report or re-exam, re-report, which are built-in milestones in any treatment plan, is at those moments in the paperwork, ask them questions that are going to elicit a response that's going to give you some insights of whether they had a testimonial, like a before and after transformation. So that's a process driven. And then in that appointment, you walk it through with them. The third is a what I would call a campaign, where we did these quarterly in our office, which was, hey, 2 or 4 times a year, we would call for testimonials. We say, hey, if you had your life transformed with chiropractic care on Saturday morning between 9 and 11 or 9 and 12, we've got this amazing video team that's coming in, professional video team, and they're going to be capturing our patients' stories. We would love to include you in that, where we are asking for 5 individuals, couples, or families that would love to contribute. And we would always fill those up. And then we would provide coffee and snacks, and we had an awesome day, and we loved on them. We would gift them for coming in and just loving on them and just thanking them for being an amazing person. And then we capture testimonials that way. So there's 3 ways you capture: organically, just being on the ready. Number 2, process, milestone visits. Number 3 is campaigns, and you run a campaign just to capture testimony. Do it at live events if you do live events. Do it at these campaigns. Again, just think quarterly almost, or even if twice a year. Those are 3 ways that we capture them and build them into the system. Then the third piece is, okay, what do you do? How do you capture the testimonial? I recommend doing a video, Corey. It's 2025. So yeah, video for sure. And then you can turn that video into a still image. You can take some images from that, and then you can actually have it transcribed into a written form. And you can use it in a variety of ways. So video, image, and written, and put it over every platform that you have in the way that makes most sense on that platform. And then the last thing that you have to do is post-production, which is actually a lot of the work that a lot of us, like me, we fail because we're all starters, go, but then we forget to finish the job. You need somebody to go post-production to take that content, and actually bring it to life, and make sure then it gets posted on all the platforms. It gets put into a calendar and a schedule so that it gets distributed. That's where you need your team, delegate, to somebody who can own that, who can be accountable for that. And when you have those pieces in place, now you can have a culture of testimony where it actually is happening. And you're capturing these amazing stories organically, process-driven, and campaign. You're taking them, repurposing them into 3 different forms of content, and then you're posting them on all your platforms, internally, externally, and digitally. And that, my friends, is how you create this thing, an entity that truly is a culture of testimony.
Man, this has been a masterclass in a lot of topics, from leadership to delegation to getting reviews and testimonials and spreading the word. And this has been phenomenal, man. As we begin to land this plane, because I know you got another thing you got to jump off to. I just have a final question here in regards to if the doctor listening or watching this at this moment is just feeling stuck, they're wearing too many hats, kind of like what we talked about at the beginning of this recording of trying to do all the things when you realize you probably just can't anymore. What's maybe the best piece of advice you could give them? Maybe there's a book that they need to read. Maybe there's a resource they need to tap into. What is the most actionable step they could take, ideally immediately or even tonight, that would maybe help them get unstuck?
Yeah. So I would actually go through this video, watch it back, and I would go through that delegation methodology, and I would begin to make a list. Here's what I would do. I always tell docs, I say, make a list of everything you're currently doing right now. Okay. So this is actually the answer. So make a list of everything you're currently doing right now for your work. Let's just call it for your business. That's the first list. The second list is, so based on what's on the first list, make another list and write down only the things that are on that first list, the things that only you can do. Okay. Second list. Then there's going to be a third one. Then there's a third blank list, and you look at the second list, and from that list, you write down another list of things, and that's the things based on the things that only you can do. Just write down the things that you love doing. And what I'm going to challenge you to do is go back to that first, once you've done those 3 lists, go back to the first list and the second list and begin to circle all the things that were not on the second list and begin to put the initials of the person who you think would be the best person to begin delegating that to. If you do that today, that immediately will free you up energetically, right? We all have a limited amount of time, energy, and focus. And so immediately you're going to be able to free up some time and some energy and some focus. That's going to enable you to start focusing more on the things that you know you can do and things that you love to do. And that's where your growth is going to come from. And if you want to chat about this at all, feel free to message me here on LinkedIn or whatever other platforms. The second thing, Corey, I would tell them to do is check out our podcast. I love our podcast too. I love yours. I love ours. And I think it's a great resource. If you're a doc listening to that on a weekly basis every week, I think it'd be awesome. It's a really good resource. It's free. And I feel like it's just a way that we love serving our profession.
The Remarkable Practice. Is there any other plugs that you want to throw out there?
No, just the Remarkable CEO for chiropractors.
Okay.
And then there's our Remarkable Building a Remarkable Practice, which really speaks to an audience of docs who are really launching and building their practice. And then our podcast, Dr. France and I, it's really speaking to doctors who are scaling and then potentially even exiting. That's who we're speaking to. So yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I've listened to many episodes. It's no fluff, super tactical. It will actually move the lever on your business. And so highly recommend it. Dr. Pete, man, thanks for doing this. This has been fun.
You're welcome, Corey. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.